Everybody, I'm going to do a few different things here. Sorry I haven't had a Sayaji Says for a little while. I've been busy and that's just life and you're going to have to live with it. Sorry, I have a working school to deal with. Anyway, this episode of Sayaji Says or Daniel-san Waxes On or whatever you want to call my podcast that has at least 20 people who watch it now. Yeah, kind of a big deal. Today we're going to tackle that most fun of subjects. We're going to be tackling the Kata, the Aka, the forms. Enjoy. I want to talk about something that's actually a huge subject, and I'm going to try to just key in on one very small aspect of it that I think if you really get understanding of this aspect, most of the huge conversations and debates and debacles go away. They just go away. And what I want to talk about is Akas, forms, Katas. As soon as you start that, you can look around in a room full of people and start talking about katas, and you can see what camp they fall into. The katas, akas, forms are worthless. The akas are the art. You know, the opposite extreme over there. That is the art. And then these people that are worthless over here, and then people over here that go, well, they're just training aids, and then the people over here that go, they're just artistic expression of the thing. What I want to bring up and what I want to say is this. I've had a really wonderful series of conversations with what we in our martial art call an elder. It's one of the first 18 students of the founder of the system. Sayaji Bob Maxwell and I were talking, and all these thoughts are mine, not his. So don't read anything into that. But talking with him reminded me of or at least maybe I'll say it confirmed that I'm using my akas the right way or the way I think they should be used. I love aka. I love it. I'm a performance guy. I love it. I've always loved it. Even when I was in competition, I was every bit as excited to go compete with an empty hand aka or a weapons aka as I was to go in and get into the ring and fight. I loved all of it equally. I love competition and I love the artistic expression of performance and performative arts. So I love training kata or aka until I got it dialed in and I physically mastered the techniques. But the truth of the matter is, focusing on mastering the techniques and the perfection of character, form, beauty, movement, that is all the icing on the cake. Akas exist for one reason. Akas exist because for a very long time, most people didn't read and write. Akas are training aids. Akas put together techniques you have learned into common sense based combinations that grow out of your martial arts theory to application to the technique used. You gotta have the theory first. You got to pick an application of that theory for the attack you're facing, and then you do the techniques that make the most sense to reach the results you want. You learn that, and you practice that through aka. You don't train aka to fight. You go to sport to learn fighting techniques. You train with a resisting partner to learn how to fight. You train real blocking, real punching. You get the bags out and you get the bags to fight. But in a world where they didn't have punching bags, in a world where you had to make your own stuff to kick, to punch, to work, in a world where you trained with your partners, but if you seriously hurt them, they couldn't continue to do things that brought them food to eat, and you had to have respect for them, and you couldn't just kick the stuffing out of everybody you ran into. Aka was that essential part of training. And the problem is today, people want to delve into aka as if it's some mystical, magical repository of all the wisdom of the elders. It's not. It's not. At its essence, your aka, your kata, your form is a step to a stance with a block and a punch. It's a combination of movements based off of your martial arts theory, your martial arts application of that theory, and your martial arts choice of the techniques that will best deliver that result. That's what it is. And if you're not learning that concept, if you're not reinforcing the theory, the application, and the technique, then you're wasting your time. All the beautiful perfection of movement, all the hyperfixation on 45 degrees out, and step out at 22.5 degrees and move over here and turn your head and isolate the opponent and drive and get out there, right? Some of that's important. And if you want to compete, it's all important. But if you want to learn the lessons the Aka has for you, it's about cerebral training. It's about training while your brain's turned on, not turned off. It's about thinking about the theory, the application, and the techniques you're using. You're fighting an imaginary person, okay? And that's where people go, Kata's worthless, Akas are worthless. No one's gonna fight like that. Oh, okay. If no one's gonna fight like that, then your entire martial art is bankrupt here. If no one fights like that, then you shouldn't be training like that. It means your theory is flawed from the beginning. And I gotta tell you something, the theory is not flawed. Your understanding of Kata is flawed. Okay? Kata does exactly what it's supposed to do, and it does it wonderfully. It helps you practice your theory and application with specific techniques. That's what it's for. Anything else you want to put on top of that, that's on you. That's on you. Okay? That's on your desire for your martial art to mean something more to you. But your kata, your aka, your forms are very, very specifically talking about, here's a theory of closing with your opponent, right? Or maybe the aggressive counter-attacking, one of your theories of attacking and countering. So you do going into a forward stance because you're closing with the enemy. And if the enemy is throwing this technique at you, suppose your opponent is throwing a punch at you and you want to close. That's where it starts. It doesn't start with you close and throw a block and hope he threw the right punch for that block to work. It starts with your opponent throwing a reverse punch, but you want to close, but you also want to get outside of his effective zone. So you're going to take this step up here, or depending on your, maybe the stance, maybe you're not quite so mobility-based martial art, maybe you're more stance-based martial art. Whatever it is, you go into that forward stance, they're throwing that punch at your head, you're driving out with whatever block is going to move and help move that punch past your face, and then you're turning and delivering that counter strike. At its simplest form, at its simplest description that I can give you about Akas, that's what it is. That's it. That's it. You're working on a theory of closing the gap, getting in, counter striking, evasion, getting offline, done. That's it. That's it. That's what that form was for. That's what that Aka was for. It's helping you remember you've got to get offline. It's helping you remember that if you don't block that punch, you're not going to get to throw your punch. And it's helping you remember that when somebody throws a punch, they open up somewhere. You can't take something without giving. You can't throw this hand out here and still be protecting your face. You can't punch up here and still be protecting down here. You can recover and try to protect. Welcome to the evolving and advanced stages of martial art. But in the beginning, that punch is coming down here. This is open, so you move offline. You parry or block or whatever it is your martial art likes to do. You make sure you have a target of opportunity and you nail them. Boom. 1, 2, 3. Okay? That's it. That is it. That's what it's for. That's what it's for. Now, if you want to pull out your notebook and write down your theory and your application and the techniques that might make sense for that and draw your charts and draw your arrows and your circles, you should. You should. But where this was invented and when this was invented, nobody had papers and pens and pencils, nor did they read or write. Now, for those of you that are smugly crossing your arms and going, well, actually, it's not true. In my martial art, it was taught to the elite nobles of Saskatchewan or wherever your martial art was invented. Good for you. Look at their writings. Look at their books. Look at their training manuals. You're going to see they talk about their whatever terms they use for it, their theory, their application, and their technique. And for those of you that are in more of the Japanese tradition, the bunkai, right? And then, I mean, if people are talking about how that's lost, bunkai is lost, well, then you have lost the whole point of your katas. The whole point of your katas is for you to do mental and physical reps of your theory and application and your actual practice. That's the whole point of it. That's it. That's what it's for. Continued practice. That's it. Reinforcing, building muscle memory. There's no mystical theory of if I train, we have a form, our first one we learn is called the point form, right? The point Aka. There's no way you can just train the point Aka and become an invincible fighter. But you can train the point Aka until you don't ever have to think about initial evasions, getting offline, appropriate distance to counterstrike, and counterstriking off the block without taking big, stupid, long pauses. 1 and 2, right? That doesn't work. It's bam, right? It's 1. You know, that's what it teaches you. And if you don't know that's what your kata or aka or form is teaching you, maybe you should go back and find out. That's it. And once you get past that, all the other stuff people are talking about, kata, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Go train. Have fun.